Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Podcast for Profits. And today's guest is Eric Bruce, founding partner of Next Era Legal, a firm that's redefining what legal partnership should actually look like for business owners and real estate pros. Eric's story starts with a tragedy, and just 4 years old, his mother was a victim of a workplace shooting. After watching lawyers turn his family away, he made a lifelong decision to never back down from hard cases. Now he's bringing the same fearless mindset to legal transactions most attorneys would avoid, turning the no deal into done deal. Now, whether you're building a business, buying property, or scaling fast, this episode's a masterclass in how legal can actually become your most valuable growth tool. So let's get into it. Eric, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Man, I feel like you have like a superhero origin story.
I mean, I want to know about. I'm not sure about superhero origin story. Look,
Your clients might disagree.
maybe, yeah, and which is a good thing.
Absolutely,
I've been called a superhero by them, but maybe just give it a little bit more time, right? Who knows? But yeah, I don't think it's superhero. It's just born and raised in Metro Detroit. And unfortunately, my mom was shot and killed in the 1991 Roanoke post office shooting.
Wow.
And as I got older, I was only 4, so memory of that was quite slim. But as I got older, I asked more questions, and then as I kind of understood the legal system as a high schooler, I wondered why we didn't sue. My dad told me, it's too tough of a case. Everyone turned us down, but all these different reasons. So right there, I started looking at law schools. I started seeing what it took to get into law school and what path I had to take. So I did the traditional path. I went to undergrad, political science, and then jumped to law school. And, even though I didn't end up going into the area to help people like my family, I found my passion in a way to do that through business and real estate transactions.
That's awesome. Do you feel like that having it in the back of the mind was the thing that kind of kept your radar focused on finishing school and getting into what you're doing?
Yeah, that, and I mean, just the way my dad raised me, made a commitment to start something, you finish it.
That's huge.
Yeah, I just remember being a kid and, I was on a baseball team that wasn't doing well and I didn't want to go to the games anymore. And he was like, no, well, you're going, you made the commitment, you got to go finish it out. So it's both. I wanted to figure out these tough legal puzzles or these tough deal structures. Yeah. And I wanted to finish for the commitment purposes.
What do you think it is in you that makes you go towards these hard things? Obviously law to begin with wasn't like, oh, cool, yeah.
Yeah. I tend to go to things a little bit more challenging. It's when I get into or when something's a very repetitive task or a very easy task over and over, I still give it all my attention. I get bored. And I think that's very common among people. So, if I can find a deal that is super complicated or, hey, no one can really figure this aspect of it out, and I sit down and start working on that, it doesn't just stop at that deal. It carries over to everything in business for me. So it carries over to marketing, business development, how we're setting up our systems and processes. So that one tough deal, that one challenging transaction carries over, and I just love the energy from it going into everything else.
That's awesome. I think we're finding the superpowers that you don't have. What do you feel is like the difference when it comes to operating these things? Some people approach this and obviously wanting to dive into the challenge obviously triggers you to focus in on those things. How do you feel like you're able to find the things that most people aren't able to find in some of these deals, especially on the business side?
Yeah, I don't know if it's about finding things others can't.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just, I think it's more of, I have experience outside of legal in the business world by itself. And I look at it from a holistic approach. So
Okay.
I'm not just looking at it, well, what's the law say on this? Because we're going to be limited. And
Yeah.
as long as we stay within the law, but we have a creative way to accomplish the deal, why not go that route? So that's kind of how we do it. And I don't want that to be confused or misconstrued as in we're bending the law. We're
Sure.
not. We are sticking to the law, but there's ways within the law to be very creative. And that's where I think it comes from, is just from the business sense. I read a ton of business books that have nothing to do with law. I surround myself with business owners. So I think it's more that than anything else.
It's that outside perspective of just being able to take that, 100-mile view and look at all of it.
Right.
Can you give me a little idea? Because with Next Era, is that the big difference?
The big difference with Next Era is, it starts with our partners. All of our partners have done something outside of legal in the business world. I had a real estate development company. One of my partners had another company ramped up to about 60 million. And then another one of our partners developed a technology platform. So we've all done something outside of it. And then when we bring that knowledge into the legal framework, now we're sitting more as what I really like to think of as a real in-house counsel. We're sitting there taking in thoughts from finance and the marketing department and the sales team and putting that into our legal strategy and legal ops. So that's one part of it. But also it's the way we look at the practice of law. We don't look at it in the traditional sense anymore. We hardly do billable hours unless someone specifically requests it. So we have an environment or an atmosphere of efficiency. We want to get things done. I feel like the billable hour kind of enables inefficiencies, because if you're really good at something, you get paid less. But if you're not well-versed in it, you're going to get paid more. So it's kind of a combination of the two.
You're not paying me for the time it takes me to figure it out. You're paying me for the 10 years it took me to get to figuring out in 10 seconds.
Exactly.
Got it. So walk me through like one deal that, everyone was just like, this isn't going to work out, that you have just completely turned around. Because I feel like that's kind of the eye opener for people, and they're like, yeah, but you probably couldn't do it for me.
Yeah. I mean, we can do a recent one. I was brought on preliminarily to talk or to advise a company on how to structure a deal. And I'm talking to it was a combination between business and real estate. So I'm talking to the real estate broker, and he's giving me all the reasons why client can't buy the property. And once they got that property, that was going to trigger all their other contracts to fall in place, all of their funding. So after talking with them and the founders for a bit, no one could come up with a solution. I mean, you had people that were working on this for months and months and months. And a very simple solution that was overlooked, which is sometimes what you need, just an outsider to come in and look at it. I suggested forming a JV, a joint venture agreement, with the landowner. So then our client wouldn't have to come out of pocket for the land, but would still get the benefits of all the contracts being triggered and money coming in. So it was a 4-month deliberation before we came on. And then once I got all my information and got going on it, it was probably like another month or so, just because there were so many questions I had to ask and information I had to get to that JV point. So luckily we turned around, we entered the JV agreement, and everything went off without a hitch.
Wow. So it became the intake. It became taking the time to understand it all, so you can see where that little notch was missing.
Right. And that's one thing myself, my partners, and our whole team does very well, is we ask a lot of questions. We're not ones to think we know the business front and back just because we're business lawyers. The founders are the technical geniuses and experts in that. So I'm just going to sit back and ask as many questions as I can. They may be very elementary, but it will give me a better understanding of how their business works, so then how we can help them.
Yeah, I mean, it always sounds interesting. It's like a crazy thing, but we used to always talk about, like, I came from the entertainment world, and everyone was always taught, just stay in your lane. Mm-hmm. And I always found, from the director POV, of like, if I stay in my lane and I don't understand everybody's job to an extent, right, then I'm only getting a perspective of people that have been entrenched in this way of thinking, versus where you have this panel, right? Your superhero crew, and I'm going to stick with that now. And you guys,
that's fine.
I'm going to send you a shirt. And you guys get to kind of deliberate from all these different points of view where you all have a different perspective. So, someone outside of your lane might give you a perspective that opens up a different way of thinking. Because it's
Mhm.
kind of thing, like, you go through law school and there's a certain way you learn stuff to be able to get out of that mind frame. It's almost just as hard.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's funny you use the saying "stay in your lane." I actually just posted on LinkedIn today about how we stay in our lane in the sense of we don't know all the aspects of the business, so we're going to ask as many questions as possible. But then that does allow us to step out of the lane
Right.
and work with other departments. So it's funny you say that, but yes, I mean, to an extent, we stay in the lane because we're transactional attorneys. We're not going to take on litigation cases. Our
Right.
lane's here. We're not going over there. We're here to help the business expand, grow, raise capital, or avoid this problem down the line. Okay, our lane is there, but in order to kind of drive properly, we got to make some twists and turns to stay on the road is kind of the way we like to look at it.
Yeah, you're gonna stay on the same highway, but you might have to change lanes here and there.
Exactly. Yep.
Got it. All right, love it. Have you ever had a client that was just like emotionally tied to a deal, and you're like, "This is just not. We should stop pushing," but you know.
Uh, yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we've had the one that pops out the most is the client wanted to keep moving forward with the business. Their partner was dropping out, but there was kind of a little bit of a dispute there, and the client was very insistent on moving forward with suing. First of all, like I just said, we don't do that. So I was like, you can do it, but you're gonna have to go to somebody else. But then it was kind of, I did a lot more questions that maybe didn't relate to directly what we were talking about. But then I got to like the very root of the problem of why he wanted to go to litigation. And it's because he felt like he was kind of pushed aside during the process with the partner.
Hmm.
So his emotions were riding high. He wanted to get there. And then we just suggested another course of action to kind of smooth things over. Maybe that partner was going to do XYZ. Now we're going to have him do ABC, which worked out for the client. So his emotions were driving it and really wanted, he was a day away from retaining litigation counsel and spending probably hundreds of thousands of dollars on the case. And luckily we got the emotions aside and looked at it from a business perspective, and he saw the light, as you would say.
Wow. So, let's stay in that little lane while we're there. How do you feel like the relationships, like it becomes, for lack of better words, you become a part of a relation coach when it comes to the type of JVs you got to deal with and people, all these different groups.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, we're also referred to as counselors,
Yeah.
and not in the traditional sense of counseling, but that is part of the job. I mean, we are brought in as third parties. We obviously advocate for one party's interest, whatever that business or business owner may want. But we also have to be a good attorney. I was taught when I was young was that a good attorney will say no to clients, not saying, no, we're not going to take this client on, but like, no, that is not the suggested course of action. That is not what we should be doing here. So we kind of take that stance with everything. Client wants to do everything A to Z. Okay, let's focus on the first three steps and maybe we'll get there in the long run. But that's kind of how we approach it.
Yeah. What was it that brought your specific team together? Like, were you already had a group you liked? Did you like, here's where I need my expertise?
Um, yeah, I mean, I knew the two individuals for a bit. So my one partner I went to law school with, so we've known each other since then. And the other one, it's actually kind of funny. Like I said, I'm originally from Metro Detroit, went to school in Detroit, and my classmate, who I'm very good friends with to this day, we were texting, and I was mentioning how I need to meet more attorneys when I lived in Los Angeles. He's like, you need to meet this guy. Sends me a picture of him, sends me his name. Okay.
As you
And
do in Los
then
Angeles. Here's a photo first.
yeah, exactly. And then within the same week, I got emails and texts from people that didn't know that individual, didn't know my classmate, but told me I need to meet this person. So we jumped on a few calls. We started chatting. We realized we kind of have the same mindset of how we approach things. He's a little bit more methodical. He's very good at, I mean, one of the best lawyers I've ever met. And our energies just kind of like work together. I'm a visionary. I want to go do this, this, and this. And he's the one that's like, well, hold on, let's think about it a little bit more. So we actually worked together for about a year and a half. We were already talking about partnering up, and then my classmate messaged me and said, "Hey, I'm back in private practice." Great. Brought them all together. We had 8 months of planning before we launched Next Era Legal. And I mean, we all just kind of hit it off. We all have very similar mindsets. We all played sports growing up. We all have the same, we all had the same independent vision for the firm, which was very nice.
Yeah, that's great. It's like you had your left brain, right brain, and then you had like the cerebro. We're going back to the X-Men thing again. Sorry. You had your, your overhead to kind of help keep you guys steering where you were kind of going already.
Right. Exactly.
That's really cool. So if someone's looking at like you guys, what is it? What do you feel like y'all are you're the pinnacle if you are looking for X, Y, and Z?
Yeah. So we're the pinnacle for fractional general counsel. So it's a fairly new model. There's a lot of law firms that say they do it. And then you kind of dive deeper and it's just a bunch of flat fees rolled into one scope of work. So we're the go-to for fractional general counsel. We actually take about an hour and a half to a 2-hour discovery call with a company to determine, one, if we're a good fit for their company, two, if they're a good fit for our fractional general counsel model. And then we have base tiers and then we customize them based on what the company wants. And that is a certain number of hours per month on tangible deliveries. So quick phone calls, quick emails, Slack messages, text messages, don't go to that. Anything under 10-minute communication, which is, if you look at an attorney billing by the hour, probably a lot of it's under 10 minutes of like responding to emails and phone calls and stuff like that. It's not included. And the reason we do that is because we want that open door policy. We want that company to come to us with any concern they may have, so then we can plan properly, avoid risk down the line, or help them with a new initiative. So we are kind of forging the path on the fractional aspect in that type of model.
Give me if I were a 5-year-old breakdown of what a fractional is, but I like having that idea of the setup that you're saying, because from the way it sounds like you guys work already with I want to be able to ask you as many questions every time something pops up while it's fresh. Obviously, having that just, literally like you're in the same office and let's keep going until we find the right answer.
Exactly. And with clients that have a setup as fractional, and I'll get back to the definition in a second. We actually offer independent Slack channels for everything. So then quick thoughts can go right to there. The whole team's on there. Whoever's available can jump on. Now, going back to what fractional general counsel means. Well, I mean, we've seen it with CFOs, CMOs, everything in the C-suite has gone fractional, meaning you no longer need to hire a full-time in-house counsel.
Yeah.
Based on like the report from last year, the in-house counsel report from last year, that could range anywhere from $250,000 up to $500,000 a year, not including benefits, taxes the employer pays, stock options if they're offered that, training, equipment. I mean, the list goes on and on. So what that means for us is we'll come in and sit as your in-house counsel, because maybe you have a need for an in-house counsel, but not a full-time need. So we'll come in, sit for a fraction of the price and a fraction of the time. And we'll get the work done. We'll get your legal ops in order. We'll get all your contracts going. So that's what fractional means to us.
Got it. One more. What's a good underrated negotiation tactic big business owners can legally use to gain some leverage?
An underrated negotiation tactic.
Outside of find the superhero team.
Yeah, except for find us so we can handle it all.
Yeah.
I would say, it's really overlooked where people are like, oh, I'm not concerned with that. And that provision or that aspect of it. And they'll just kind of throw it off. It's an old school negotiation tactic, but I do think it's underrated. Put a little bit more emphasis on something you don't care about to the other side. So then you can use that. Okay, I don't really want to get rid of that, but I'll get rid of that or go down to this if you do this.
Yeah.
It's the oldest trick or oldest negotiation tactic, but people seem to forget it. Or they also forget just to ask what they want. And they're like, oh, they'll never accept this. Ask for it. I mean, Steve Jobs' interview is the epitome of that. What are they going to say? No? Then you're back at the same spot. So there's nothing nuanced. There's nothing like groundbreaking in that statement, but I think people forget about it.
My mother-in-law will be proud. That's one of the ones she said, you're not going to get it if you don't ask.
Yep.
I'll let her run with it. I'm going to get her totes after this one. Let me see. I got a couple more for you real quick. Wrap it up with you. If a business owner or, working on real estate or anything, they feel stuck or something that's kind of risky, what is the first thing they should look at in contract wise?
Wow, that's a big question.
Ooh,
Like before they sign, or I would hope before they sign.
let's say that. Yeah, let's just say that, either they're not finding the exact contract they want, like they're not finding that the mesh,
Mhm.
we're good with this, but we're not good with this. What's the first place they can kind of look to find some ground there?
Look, I mean, the first provisions we look at are the termination provisions of a contract, limitation of liability, and indemnification. So,
Hmm.
indemnification is like a third party claim. Who's going to defend the other one? I
Right.
mean, most business owners are concentrated on the term price, like the main terms that they've negotiated. But those three are very vital to things. Also, the reps and warranties. So, what are you promising is going to stay in place, or what are you promising? Like, for example, there's no litigation going on for my company right now. Is a reps and warranty that is in almost every contract I've seen. Well, you better make sure that's right, and you better make sure all of those are correct. So those four provisions are a good spot to look if you're not working with an attorney. If you're working with an attorney, just ask the attorney. And I really hope anyone
Yeah.
entering into contracts is working with an attorney, because look, we're in the age of AI, and ChatGPT can give you a lot of information. But what ChatGPT can't get you is the experience and how we look at it from different perspectives with the business, legal, and every aspect to it. So those four provisions, if you're stuck and you don't have a legal team, look at those.
Brazen. Yeah, I feel like everyone's a little extra brazen with their ChatGPT knowledge at the
Yeah,
current time. While we're on
everybody.
the ChatGPT, gosh, what what's your favorite tech right now? What are you guys using that you're like, man, this has really kind of moved us forward a lot?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we've really dove into using Zapier and Zaps for
Yeah,
a lot of the automations for our company. So we use Clio for our CRM, for intake, and for our active clients, and we've just integrated a lot of Zaps, so we don't have to worry about certain things. A task gets completed, we drag it to the new phase, boom, it triggers something else that gets sent out. So it's a lot of tools that our clients don't see, but saves our team probably
yeah,
45 minutes to an hour a day, which is great. Um, Another product our clients don't see, but we use is it's a contract review platform. Now, for people that are listening that are attorneys, don't worry, we're not dependent solely on this. It is literally just to help. A lot of times we get copies of contracts back from opposing counsel that they didn't redline any of their changes. So an easy way for us to go in there and check that out is using
quick
this
comparison.
platform.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we use that for that purpose. We use it for very limited purposes, but we're leaning into AI pretty heavy. We use it a lot on the marketing front. So we use HeyGen
hmm,
AI for video um, editing and video production, very simple videos. We also use, I mean, a variety of AI platforms to help write content. So we're
very
using
nice.
it on that front more so than
Yeah,
the legal front right now. But actually, one of our partners is developing our own AI platform, so that it basically has our brains. So we're in the process of working through and talking through every client we've had basically and how we approached it, and then we're kind of modeling it after that, and it will be a private AI. So there's no confidentiality issues. It's purely only accessed by us for the time being.
all right. I'm just gonna throw this out there, but every superhero movie is when the tech starts getting better than them. Be careful, guys. You might be working yourself out of this.
Hey,
Um, Thank you, Eric, for joining us today. Where can everybody find you?
yeah, you can find us on our website, nextairlegal.com, LinkedIn, Eric Pros, Nextair Legal. You can find us on Instagram at Nextair Legal, YouTube, Nextair Legal. I mean, all the socials. Just go
Awesome.
Nextair Legal and we're there. And then if you want to get in touch with us, you can email me at eric@nextairlegal.com or phone number 619-323-3445.
Fantastic. And I have someone from Marvel reaching out to you guys. Thank y'all for hanging out today. And Eric, again, thanks so much, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.